All right, let's talk about fat loss for us guys as we approach our 40s and beyond. I work with mostly guys in their 40s, 50s, and even 60s, sometimes mid 30s, but there's some stuff that we need to understand about fat loss as we get older, starting with what happens to our general lifestyle as we get older. Typically, when we're younger, teenage years, 20s, even early 30s, we're more active. Even in our day-to-day lifestyle, we're moving more, we're walking more, we're not sitting down, we're not standing around as much. And by the way, I'm cooking eggs here, my first meal of the day. It is 1:20 p.m. Eastern. I fasted all morning. More on that in a second. But as we get older, the one thing to understand, and that I have to explain to most guys, is that you used to burn a lot more calories naturally in your day-to-day. You've become more sedentary. You're sitting around, you're watching Netflix, you're watching the game, you're sitting down at dinners with clients and friends and family, and you're sitting and watching your kid play sports when you used to play more sports. That's just the nature of the beast. So we have to counteract that with a lifestyle that is more movement-based, okay? We need to remember the number one rule of fat loss, and that is we got to be in a calorie deficit. We have to burn more calories than we eat if we want to lose weight. So as I prep my breakfast here, which is 3 eggs and a bagel, I'm literally just cleaning up my nutrition in preparation for my Project 4.0, which is a play on me turning 40 this year. I've hired my actual coaches that work on our team together, and we're going to all prep for photo shoots to celebrate my 40th birthday. And so one of the first things I'm doing is looking at my activity. Am I moving enough? Am I taking care of the movement side of things, which is so vital as we get older? So it's not that our metabolism is slowing down as drastically as we might think, even though there is a little bit of slowdown as we get older. We are slowing down. We're slowing down, okay? That's the first thing. Now, the other thing to remember is the more time that accumulates where you are slightly eating more than you need, you are in a calorie surplus. And so what might appear to be a slower metabolism is just you eating too much, but not by as much as you might think over a longer period of time. So let me give you an example, right? Most people actually naturally eat around their maintenance level without even really thinking about it. They eat close to maintenance or slightly above. And that slightly above typically happens when you have those like late night cravings. You overeat by just a couple hundred calories. And every few months you look at the scale and you're like, holy crap, I'm up another few pounds. And it's because you're slowly adding body fat by eating more calories than you should be eating. And it's just that small modification or small little bit of food that you're not really even realizing is in your day-to-day that's making a huge difference. A lot of guys are frustrated because they feel like they eat relatively healthy. Maybe, their spouse eats pretty healthy, so they're eating what they're eating. They're trying to feed their kids healthier. But, they go to Chick-fil-A or they go to restaurants and they have a dessert and that puts them in a calorie surplus. And they don't even realize that over time, they're just slowly adding more and more body fat through small little parts of their diet, okay? So one of the first things I'm doing as I get leaner for my 40th is I'm sticking to a very, very consistent meal plan. And I'm easing into it, which is my style of fat loss. I'm not a fast starter when it comes to fat loss. I like to ease into it. So the first week, I'm just eating foods that I know are going to fill me up and not put me in a calorie surplus. So for me, it's a bagel with eggs. That's my first meal. I'll have a yogurt and protein shake later. This is just after years of dieting and knowing how to stay leaner. If I want to drop, 6 to 10 pounds over the next few months here, this is what I do, okay? But fat loss really at the end of the day for us older guys or guys in their late 30s and beyond, it comes down to moving more, cleaning up those little parts of your diet, the alcohol, the desserts, the snacks with your kids that put you in a calorie surplus. Okay, now the other thing is, as you get older, yes, your body's muscle mass will start to decrease naturally if you don't do a couple things. One, train. You got to train with weights. I would say one of the cool things that I've been experimenting with is training heavier, but with machines, giving my body even more of a reason to hold on to muscle. That 6 to 10 rep range, typically around 8 reps on average, is what I like to train with. Sometimes I go as low as 4, And I work on getting stronger in that 4 to 8 or 10 rep range. I'll start with a weight that I can only do 4 to 6 reps. And as I get better and I can do 8 to 10, I'll add more weight. But I'm doing it with machines because as I get older, my body is not as limber as it once was. I'm not old by any means, right? I can still do all the free weight stuff if I wanted to. I can still do the deadlifts, the barbell squats, but sometimes the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. However, muscle is such a metabolically demanding piece of tissue on the body, meaning it burns calories. So it helps you stay leaner because it's utilizing more fuel to be a part of your body. So as we get older, we stop training heavy. We're scared, we had injuries, we maybe never learned how to train properly and our body's not responding the way it once did. We start to hurt more. The knees hurt, the joints hurt, the back hurts, the hip hurts, right? So we start to avoid training, and that's a huge mistake because your metabolism will start to drastically slow down if you're losing muscle and you're not training for muscle. So I tell guys, look, we're not going to throw you into the mix of training like you're training for the football combine or anything, but maybe we got to use machines and get strong again. You know, we got to give your body a signal. Hey, dude, muscle is important. Muscle is the fountain of youth because we got to hold on to it as we get older, and it's going to help us avoid injury, avoid fat loss, or avoid fat gain, and avoid just looking skinny fat as we get older, which is a huge, huge problem for a lot of guys, right? The gut gets bigger, but the shoulders get smaller. The waist gets bigger, but the back gets smaller. The chest gets smaller. The arms get smaller. And next thing you know, you're like, man, I used to have muscle. What happened, right? Well, what happened was you stopped giving your body a reason to have muscle. Huge, huge deal. A couple other things too in terms of fat loss is as we have gotten older, there may have been a lot of periods in time where you were leaner or you lost weight, significant amounts of weight, and then you gain it back. What I found to be the case, and science will back this up, but it tends to be harder and harder and harder every time you lose and regain weight to lose it again. It becomes harder. The body just becomes more stubborn. It's like new fat cells were created. So we have to shrink those fat cells. And then when more new fat cells are created, we got to shrink those fat cells. And yes, it's still possible to lose fat, but the fat cell will always remain. This is backed by science, okay? You can look this up if you don't believe me. Fat cells are permanent. So if you made it this far in the video, by the way, I should have mentioned it earlier, but if you made it this far, I have a tremendous fat loss resource group for you guys. It's free, okay? All you have to do is comment fat loss on this video, and I will literally give you the playbook to transforming your physique permanently, especially if you're a guy over the age of 35 in his 40s and 50s. The other part that I will mention, and I mentioned this in the free guide, comment fat loss, by the way, if you want free fat loss roadmaps that will take you from overweight to where you need to be. All you have to do is follow it. We don't charge for information. We simply charge for implementation and accountability and coaching and guidance and customization, okay? All that being said, for us guys as we get older, hormone optimization. We live in a world now that is designed to destroy your testosterone, destroy your estrogen, which is important too, okay? Destroy your human growth hormone, destroy all these things. And I'm not taking human growth hormone, I will tell you that, but there are guys who need it. There are guys who need testosterone. There are guys who need it to function just mentally, okay? Not just physically, but to feel mentally locked in. So there could be a huge gap in your fat loss equation and puzzle that could be filled with optimizing your hormones. That's something too that I'll give you for free. If you want the peptide guide, normally it's $27, but I'm going to give a few of you a copy of it for free. Peptides are a nice way to segue into potentially using hormones. I do think it's a better idea to start with hormone optimization, get your testosterone dialed in, get all that set up, then include peptides, but they all kind of go hand in hand now. So I would take at least a look at where you are internally. Get with a trusted medical provider, someone who knows this game in and out. That's why we have medical teams who have partnered with us to make sure that you get the best of the best. But at the end of the day, fat loss doesn't have to be complicated. At the end of the day, the best tip I can give you is find a system that you can follow day in and day out consistently until you've reached the physique that you want. And I don't know how much time that will be. It's different for everybody because ultimately it depends on how much fat loss you need, how much body fat you're carrying, your training history, your consistency, your genetics, right? They all add up to different timelines for most guys. Most guys, though, will lose anywhere from 1 pound to 2.5, 3 pounds a week, depending on your consistency, your adherence, your sleep, your stress, all that stuff. But hope this video made sense. The simple equation for fat loss is you have to be in a calorie deficit. However, As we get older, there are other variables that will influence not the calorie deficit itself, but just your body's response, okay? The health of your body, your consistency, how you feel. And those things are important, okay? I'm not here to pull the wool over your eyes and say it's just about being in a calorie deficit. There are, of course, other things. You got to get that first, and then the rest of the factors will start to play in. Comment fat loss, comment peptides. I'll send you some free stuff to get you rolling. Let me know if this video helped. Let me know, and watch this next video up here, and I will explain even more on how to set yourself up for success when it comes to permanent fat loss. Talk to you in the next one. Peace.